My name is Phil Jackman, and welcome to this week's In Conversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast's exciting and dynamic cybersecurity industry. Brought to you by CyberNorth, Dynamo Northeast Cybersecurity Cluster. We're supported by Accenture and Innovation Super Network, and we're part of the UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration for UKC3, which is recognised by DCMS, and the National Cybersecurity Centre is representing the region. And today, I'm joined by Kevin Robertson, Head of Security Operations at Aspire Technology Solutions. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Can you start tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Aspire?
Yeah, sure. So, as covered, Kevin Robertson, Head of Security Operations here at Aspire. My role is essentially everything security that Aspire does. So my primary role is to look after our managed security services, which encompass managed detection and response, a fully managed SOC, and our sort of major incident response services. In addition to that, as well, I'm the kind of senior person in the organisation with regards to internal security. So what you might call a CISO in sort of larger organisations. That is my sort of secondary role as well.
Well, that's interesting. But, so you started your career in cyber in the RAF, from my understanding. So how did you get into the signals? Was it your first choice of a career?
Yeah, I mean, I joined the Air Force when I was 18. I kind of was in a position where I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with my sort of life and career. Wasn't really interested in going to university or anything like that. So joining the Air Force was a kind of almost a natural progression. It was one way to kind of get out of where I sort of grew up and where I lived. I always wanted to kind of leave and spread my wings. Pardon the pun. In terms of joining the Air Force, you start off by doing a kind of an aptitude test. You obviously have your preferences, and my preferences were a more engineering sort of focused trade, so IT or engineering were the ones that I went for. And based on your aptitude sort of results, you then get advised on which career path you could take. So thankfully I did quite well in the exams and was sort of recommended to go into what we'd call Trade Group 4, which is effectively the signals sort of element of the Royal Air Force. From there, I started off as a sort of network engineer, a little bit more general, not predominantly security focused. So I was in the Air Force for 8 years. I would say the first 5 were more IT and networking, and then the last 3 were when I started to get more interested into security. Towards the end of my career in the Air Force, I was the sort of lead engineer when it came to our deployed security offerings. So going out on operations and kind of securing communications on airfields and things like that. That was kind of my first taste of it. From there, I left the Air Force and I did some kind of contracting from that, and then I ended up working for Cisco, so large sort of GSI, if people have not heard of them, predominantly networking focused as well, but with a whole bunch of security portfolio and all other brackets. So there I was a security consultant in the UK and Europe, supported a whole bunch of customers from government, defence, financial services, and sort of large enterprise as well. That was the first kind of 18 months of my career in Cisco. Then the next 18 months, I was actually kind of posted, shall we say, to Qatar in the Middle East, kind of headhunted to lead up the security offering there that we were building. The main purpose of it being in Qatar was essentially to get the country ready to deliver the World Cup, which is obviously due at the end of this year. A lot of people probably don't understand all the things in the background that go to delivering a large-scale event like that. You need to have enough hotel rooms available for guests. You need to have transportation lanes. The airports need to cope with the influx of passengers, and ultimately, all of that as well needs to be secure, because they become a massive target as soon as something like that goes live. I'm proud to say that went very, very well, and I left Qatar about 2 years ago now. Upon returning to the UK, I then was working for a company called Ardonagh, the Ardonagh Group, which are a sort of insurance firm. They are probably one of the biggest companies that you've never heard of, I would say. They're kind of valued at about 10 billion. So, very large for UK companies. If they were listed on say the FTSE 100, they go in at about 40 or 50 or somewhere like that. But they're an umbrella company and they have a lot of sort of, a little bit more well-known brands underneath them, Payment Shield, Towergate Insurance, like brands like that may be more familiar depending on where you're based. But yeah, and then from there, that's when I had conversations with the managing director here at Aspire, a chap called Chris Fraser, who I've known actually for a number of years, and we've finally kind of sort of merged on kind of our ambitions to do what I'm doing now. So that's been really good.
So just going back a bit then, when did you realise that cybersecurity was where your specialism lay?
So I think probably towards so when I my first year sort of doing security in the Air Force, so when would that'd be like 2014 now, so like a long time ago now. And I think the reason why the interest kind of started was I've always been a big fan of sort of self-improvement and learning new things and things like that. IT and tech is obviously a very fast evolving field, but if you compare, say, network engineering to security, it's kind of night and day. You may get a new networking idea, shall we say, every 3 years, maybe, in a better way to do things and things like that. Whereas in the security field, it's almost sort of weekly, monthly. There's something new. There's a new threat. There's a new vector. There's a new kind of angle to look at things. So ultimately, that was my attraction to it. Was more along the fact that it's so fast paced, so evolving. I can kind of continually learn, and I can put no real ceiling on how good of an engineer I can become. So even though now I'm in a sort of, I would say maybe a senior or a managerial position, still very hands-on, still very technical. I think a lot of fields, it's difficult to maintain the hands-on approach, as well as possibly say advance through the ranks of a company. But I think security kind of goes off the beaten track there a little bit, depending on how you look at it.
And so why Cisco? I mean, I know Cisco is a mega name in this field, but what attracted you, or was it just the opportunity arose?
Yeah, so again, because I started in network engineering, like the pinnacle for a network engineer is typically to get certifications like CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, So I was kind of always aware of those throughout my whole career, and naturally you associate those directly with Cisco. So the ability to one, achieve the certification goals that I always had, and then two, work for the company that almost becomes like an idol in terms of where you want to go was a natural thing, and a natural attractor for me. Now, I really enjoyed my time at Cisco. Whether or not they deserve to be put on a pedestal like I did in my early career, maybe not, but that's by the by.
So other networking firms are available, absolutely, but
yeah.
yes. So you've spoken a bit about Ardonagh, I think that's how you pronounce it, but let's talk about Aspire. I mean, I've known Chris for a long time as well. I've known, I think we're like a 30-man organisation, but so what attracted you to that? Obviously, you had the discussion with Chris, but what attracted you to working at Aspire?
So, I mean, I don't think Chris will mind me saying this, but I think historically, I mean, I've known Chris for about 5 or 6 years. Back then, I mean, even as little as 5 years ago, very different footprint, very different organization. Back then, they were focused on, becoming the biggest IT company in the Northeast, which is obviously a fantastic kind of goal to have. But in terms of, let's say security, or in terms of the bigger projects, the more interesting things, there wasn't really anything there that kind of took my eye. Now, over the past sort of 12 months, and again, if we can link this directly to kind of the investment news that's came out recently, with LDC, our investment partners now, the ambitions within Aspire have changed massively. We're now looking outside the region. We're looking nationally. We have plans for expansion. Everything's kind of on the up. So ultimately, it was that the ambition was number one. So the ambition to go and become the best now IT company in the UK, ultimately, the best managed services provider in the UK, and two was the discussions that we had around the sort of security offering, security services. I was very much given almost kind of free reign. I've been given a lot of freedoms that I don't think would be afforded in many places. So Chris and the board of directors obviously kind of foot the bill and ultimately do agree to the road that I'm going in. But until this point, I've had absolutely no pushback. So everything that's came off the back of that has really been my way of kind of starting my own company without any risk. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Aspire certainly going places. Like I say, it was a fairly small company when I first met them. So they've just moved out of a medium-sized company now into a large company, and so I guess cybersecurity is a key part of their ambition plan.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Obviously, I have my personal ambitions and a little bit of sort of friendly competition in terms of I want to overtake other parts of the internal business, this and the other. But ultimately, I think that is our next sort of big thing, I would say. I don't think we've, as a company, invested in a new venture this much for a very long time. I think the previous one would probably be some of the wider deals and stuff we've done with, say, Virgin Media and connectivity, but that's now 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm very excited for where the future goes, and even though we've launched a whole bunch of stuff already, there's more coming. I'll say it's just a continual kind of sort of drip feed, and we're in a precarious position where even around the country and around the world, shall we say, the security is a little bit more to the forefront. So it's easier to kind of convince our customers that this is necessary now. It always has been, but it's becoming more and more commonplace. It's becoming more and more spoken about. Governments around the world are recognizing the requirements, including our own, in terms of Cyber Essentials Plus and NCSC becoming kind of the forefront of things like that. So yeah, it was a natural route for Aspire to take, both in terms of necessity and obviously in terms of as a business, it can be a quite a good service offering.
Excellent, and a brand new building as well. So that's really exciting.
Yeah,
bit of a rubbish view, mind you, looking over the Tyne and
yeah.
So you've recently joined CyberNorth steering group. Thank you very much for that. What would you like to see the cluster achieve?
I think again it's kind of twofold. So I think the first thing is obviously making sure that companies in the Northeast as a whole are aware of security and its importance. And we don't want to, if we look globally, you can see the kind of trends. As much as we like to rib the Americans, let's say, they typically, when it comes to technology, are actually a little bit ahead of the trend, and you can almost look at them where they were 2 years ago and directly sort of compare them to, say, the UK and our security posture and our technology ambition, let's say. So ultimately, as part of CyberNorth, I want to make sure that wherever we go nationally, the Northeast is very much part of that journey, and if possible, we even kind of exceed that and get ahead of the curve in terms of from a regional point of view. So that's number one. Is make businesses aware of security if they aren't already. I think it's an easier conversation than it would have been even 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But I think ultimately that's one of our key goals. I would say is to spread the word and kind of make sure that everyone is security aware. Number two is a little bit more kind of a personal driver, let's say, but it's around the getting people sort of interested in the industry from a ground level. This is something we spoke about before, but it's finding that sort of next generation of talent. Often you will see the skills shortage or the skills gap being advocated in security. Now, I think that's an interesting one because I personally don't believe it's a people problem. It's very much a skills problem. If we look at the Northeast as an example, there's about 1,000 security graduates a year, and in some kind of cybersecurity related field. I presume that's replicated around the country. I would say there's more security graduates than actual positions that get up each year. So there's obviously a bit of a disconnect there. So ultimately, as part of the steering group, I'm hoping that we have the clout to kind of influence the way that the universities, the way that higher education kind of operates, and put them on a path to success in collaboration with the private and public sector. Actually get some real world experience in there as well.
That's great. I think that they're two of the fundamentally key aims that we're trying to deliver. So my last question for you then, this has been a strange year, been an exciting year for you, certainly, but so what thing would you like to see happen in the next 12 months?
Well, I mean, don't want to go. You mean security related or just in general?
It's your talk, it's your choice.
Okay. Well, let me do two then. Let me do a security one and a general one. So, security related, I would love to see some kind of fundamental shift in attitude. I think it's very much happening, but we have, for example, we have customers now where we're renewing services for them. They want traditional antivirus that they've had for 20 years, and they just want to keep that, and that's all the conversation is. And we mention, okay, but have you looked at the new? And no one has budget for it. There's no dedicated security budget in a lot of firms, especially smaller ones. Most firms purchase a security service the day after they are breached. It's very much a reactive and a knee-jerk sort of thing. Whereas I would like to see that culture kind of shift. And I don't just mean the Northeast, I mean kind of nationally. And I think we're getting there. And I think the next 12 months could be when it happens, if not the following 12 months. But that ultimately would be my security thing. In terms of a general thing I would like to see is obviously, we've had a very strange sort of 2 years in terms of pandemic. I think we're, again, not to get political, I think we're in a position now where we can hopefully start to get back to quote unquote normal, and we can look to kind of, get things back to kind of normal and not have people kind of worried to go about their daily lives and take part in the things they enjoy and stuff like that. But we'll see where that goes.
Well, thank you for that, Kevin. That was really good. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who's helped me to set up the In Conversations. Look out for the next in our series, and if you're interested in taking part, or know somebody who would, please get in touch. And you may have noticed I'm wearing this year's Cyberfest t-shirt. The call for speakers has been launched. Look out for it if you're interested in the Northeast's biggest cybersecurity festival in September. Please note and send us in their call for speakers. Okay, thanks very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
That was In Conversation with Phil Jackman, lead for CyberNorth. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.